So I spent the past 2 months inside a leveling guild in Classic WoW Season of Discovery, and it was filled with drama and weird people.
Fucking heal me, motherfucker! Burn your whole fucking bar, please. My tanking was too bad. Your tanking was fucking shit.
If you want to grief about loot, get the fuck out of my goddamn guild right now. Leave the fucking group.
I don't know what I expected.
I only got into SoD Phase 3 because Sunken Temple has always been a bit of a favorite when it comes to dungeons because of the complexity and the size of it. Now this leveling guild has been an interesting experience, and I'm gonna go over the personalities that stuck out, the Discord, the awful raiding experiences, and the aftermath. And yes, that's right, the aftermath. I only spent 2 months in this guild and witnessed its death and explosion. Most leveling guilds have their ups and downs, helps and needs, and of course drama. Odds are you know the best way to get into these guilds is just by existing thanks to those add-ons that can scan for guildless people. They're usually not accompanied by any message or anything, just a straight guild invite, and even if you do get a message, it's some copy and paste generic thing. Honestly, a true plague against any player just trying to level and do their own thing. I'm someone who likes to take frequent breaks and go at my own pace, so I like to avoid a lot of group-based activities. It's also kind of absurd how often you'll get spammed, and the problem only increases the higher your level, or if your class is in high demand. Not to mention they'll even hit you at levels between 1 and 5. I chose to stay in this guild because it's always piqued my interest. What are these guilds about? Do they even have an end goal, or is the primary life of these guilds just a continuous loop of leveling? The theory of these guilds is to rely on scattershot invites to maintain a decent leveling experience and eventually lead to raiding. It's a simple concept, and of course before I go into specific details about this guild, your mileage will vary. It's kind of funny in a way to truly see these communities operate like a small ecosystem and understanding how leadership truly sets the pace and ambitions for the rest of the community. And with these kinds of guilds, the egos are astounding. As someone who's raid-led and participated in hardcore raiding, speedrunning, parse junkies, all that, nothing compares to the actual egos I found in this guild.
Well, I'm gone.
It's ranged attack power. Please read the item.
To the
Bob stole a fucking gun! Son of a...
And they came in a wild variety. The GM's ego inflated with the more members that were in both guilds, but the most popular ego I noticed was casual elitism. Every day, and I mean every day, is faced with this idea, this straw man, of anyone who parses well is evil. They gatekeep you at every stop of the way in WoW raiding, which to an extent can be true.
Right.
But the odds are basic understanding of your class would remove any of these barriers. It's a weird feeling as someone who's been a part of a more parse-centric community for most of my WoW career. Everyone in the guild usually leaves the general public alone. We log in to raid and log out when it's over. If we ever did interact with someone, it might be through dungeons, but the extent of that is just saying in voice comms, "This guy sucks." Relatable for anyone at any skill level, honestly, but I digress. Everything was pretty weird. Didn't help that if I had to guess the average age of most players were around like 40, with some teetering on the ages of 80. But regardless of age, it was gossip central.
I don't know what I expected.
My nightmare of being back in high school, but unfortunately I was wide awake. What changed this guild completely was when they finally got enough people to raid Sunken Temple. This is where I became extremely knowledgeable in the way the guild functions. And what first drove me crazy was this dogshit Discord. Now this part might be a bit nitpicky, but I think anyone who actively uses Discord can relate to the stuff I'm about to go over. After recording this whole video, I realized I do spend a lot of time on the Discord. If you don't care about the Discord etiquette or stuff like that, you can skip to this time code. So this Discord, from top to bottom, we're going to learn about it. Try and ignore the fact that there's 2 announcement channels. The regular announcements channel is just for posting memes anyways, right? And the GM announcements is for letting us know when Discord itself is having issues. It's top priority stuff, and who doesn't love and add everyone within 20 minutes of each other? We stay updated in this guild. Raid signups, and this is probably my biggest gripe right here. These channels have changed names so many times and have only remained in the name they are now because all officers have basically quit at this point, including the GM. They used to be called Morning Tuesday, then changed to John Doe Morning Raid, then to a cool nickname Morning Raid, and some others, but it now seems like they've been solidified to what they are now. As someone who's used signups, it's hard enough to get people to actually click the signups, but to constantly change the name of the channel for the actual signups itself is a recipe for disaster. Hate to see it. The main raid was even changed to Sweaty, which was just a cherry on top. Now I know you're curious. You have to be, right? What's considered sweaty to a mass invite leveling guild? Behold, 5 weeks in, after clearing Sunken Temple maybe 2 to 3 times before, the first and last sweaty run didn't even complete the raid, and have interesting numbers for being so sweaty. Listen, I know I'm being a little harsh here, but it's called sweaty, so be sweaty.
No, I don't know.
Oh hey, look, some voice channels. And of course there's a voice channel for each raid. Listen, if the raids aren't running at the same time, there's zero reason for multiple raid channels. This adds to the ongoing long list this Discord has. We're not even halfway through scrolling through this bad boy, but oh, wait, what are these guys? To be fair, DPS prep channel might actually have some value. Talk about consumes, gears, enchants, maybe even raid composition. What the hell are healers and tanks prepping about? Being as there's only 2 tanks for Sunken Temple, I mean, like, what are the 2 guys going to talk about? I'm going to get threat, plant my feet, and never move again.
Amazing.
For the healer prep? I don't know, maybe talk about mana potion prices or something?
Amazing.
But I was wrong. Oh, how wrong I was. This 20-man was getting broken down like a 40-man raid back in the day. The healing officer is assigning a healer to heal certain groups. You are not to heal outside of that group. To limit your own healers in such a way is flabbergasting. I understand the direction and the mindset of this kind of delegation, and it could have some rhyme and reason, but that's for 40 raid content. But we're working on a budget here. This is 20-man. You only get like 2 to 4 healers maybe, and the healing classes shine in different ways. To limit priests and druids to specifically trying to heal just one group, it's insanity. Now we have raid information. It's literally announcements with all the ats it has to all the members. Nothing shocking there, just more fluff. This is like one of the 2 sections that kind of serve their purpose, even if it's just a renamed announcement channel. Class help channels, I swear I see this in every Discord. And they're filled with like the same exact stuff any other Discord has. It's untouched, it's nothing good, and not jack shit going on in them, and it's people just posting the most random shit. Like this guy who decided to add all members to say, if you have questions about ghost mushroom farming and mithril farming, please ask me. I have methods to share. For those who know, there is background with this guy here, but that's for another video. He's talking about just stealthing through Maradon and herbing and mining. But instead of just saying that in the message, he wants people to actively message and interact with him. It comes with like a need to feel important, I guess. More fluff here, nothing really interesting. My favorite thing though is the macros channel is just like one post about how to make a macro. It gave me a really good chuckle. And then we get back to more voice channels. This Discord triggers me. Text channels galore, then a voice channel, and then more text channels, and then more voice channels. I can't, man. Then to further self-boost your own importance, we even have officer-specific hangout channels. Now these channels feel really icky to me. I don't know if I want to follow an officer to their specific sex dungeon channel. It just feels, I don't know, alienating. I don't know, it's weird. And we finally reach the bottom of the Discord, the complete barren. And for good measure, it takes me a few scrolls to get all the way down here, and looking at this from a normal person with common sense, odds are you'll run into a channel before hitting the bottom that already describes what you're about to post. That is, of course, besides being PvP specific, which is a little ironic to have a PvP text channels and voice channels on a dedicated PvE server. I've never seen these channels used, they're all empty, maybe 1 or 2 posts every 2 months. I am very curious about this PvP sign up. Not sure what they're signing up for, as anything PvP worth it doing in SoD right now is usually every few hours. Okay, and that's the Discord. I know this is a mass invite leveling guild and has a lot of members, 2 guilds. The Discord's just gotta be big, right? So many different personalities and interests. It should be booming. Wrong. It's actually wrong. That's actually very far from the truth. The actual amount of Discord interaction with a mass invite guild is abysmal. It might have more activity than maybe like a raid logging guild, but people just aren't interested in getting emotionally invested in a Discord or community where the entire concept is a revolving door. People in and people out every day. So why do people stay here? I actually heard someone say, "No one else will invite me." Listen, don't sell yourself short, kings and queens out there. There are plenty of guilds that will invite you. But alright, who cares about Discord stuff? No one cares. Discord's whatever. Maybe you log into Discord, you click a sign up, everything's cool, you mute every server you've ever been on forever. What about the raiding experience? The raiding experience, my first raid with these guys was midway through their first attempt at Sunken Temple. The big man in charge, the GM, the raid leader, was probably the most frustrating part of the entire raid, and the main reason I never raided with them after that night. Now, I raided with my significant other, and we both had headaches after 3 hours of the Dreamsight duo and Jamal. Of course, the GM leaves his mic on, voice activity, so we of course get to listen to all the conversations he has with the people in his place. And as well as all the word vomit that comes out of his mouth. He's truly a guy who has no filter and no real thought process, no plan, nothing. He is an enigma. From listening to him ask the entire raid why his nipples are hard or why his is hard constantly, to him randomly yelling at the family in his house. No regards for morale this guy as the raid leader in a very casual guild. I heard him call out and shit talk people for their performances more than I have ever heard in any other guilds, and it was done with zero sarcasm and zero disregard for how it affected the raid. Most of the Discord was silent and just going with the flow. It felt like everyone was just hoping to not get singled out. We eventually do kill Dream Scythe, and during trash, like I said previously, he just talks about how great of a job we did and then switches to completely shitting on anyone who deemed as not pulling their weight. And this went on until we're finally 1 or 2 pulls away from fighting Mr. Jamal, until he chimes in to say, "Officers, one of you needs to look up what this guy is about." At this point, I'm just at a loss of words. This GM, the raid leader, clearly has done zero research. He believes raid leading is telling us when he's gonna taunt and when he needs someone else to taunt. The amount of times I heard during each fight for DPS to pump harder or heals to use big heals is pretty wild. This is honestly something I hear a lot when it comes to raid leading, especially in pugs and stuff. I like to imagine this world of players. All the DPS and healers were previously just doing tiny bits of damage and heals. My rotation for DPS? I wasn't bothering to do it because I thought we'd go at a casual pace, like a stroll in the park. But the raid leader is telling me to pump harder. Oh, okay, I'll start doing my rotation now. And the healers? We need big heals. Please turn off the tiny heals button and hit the big heals button. Now, I know, there is a place for this kind of call in raids. I hear you, but trust me when I say these terms weren't used correctly. I heard these commands from 100% to 0%. And this man, who's brought 19 other individuals to come together and raid, has done zero research.
Well, I don't know what I expected.
The problem was, this isn't even the first week of Sunken Temple. This was, I think, week 2. The information was out there. There were plenty of resources. I wasn't getting any information from the GM or the officers, so I just checked myself and ended up finding more information in a single Google search than anything I heard out of anyone else's mouth. But there's a funny thing about this specific incident of Jamal, because just as he asked officers to search it up, I alt-tab out and just do my own because I've already lost trust in everyone else at this point. The GM decides to just pull, a la Leroy Jenkins style. Healers have just rebuffed since we did trash, so they have no mana. 3 people get locked out, consumes running, the whole 9 yards. Don't get me wrong, I kinda like the idea of communities and guilds that don't look up anything and experience each boss by pulling and figuring it out. that seems pretty fun. However, this was not part of the plan and only piled on to the other issues, and of course, most of the raid voiced their frustration, and the GM just laughed. We eventually killed Jamal and call raid, and that's that. I reach out to an officer and explain why I won't be back for common courtesy because this dude was actually a good dude. He also informed me that a few others shared my opinion and I had already left. I found a new guild after this within the same night. That's how traumatizing the entire ordeal was. But that's not where the story ends, because I left my alt in the guild and still participated in watching the raids with their GM set to basically 0, so I couldn't hear him. My curiosity got the best of me, what can I say? They did some raids, multiple per week, and certain officers put more effort into making a team and recruiting. While some officers were committed in only doing BFD and Noma runs, and a few officers just log in and level alts, and I've never seen them do anything. One officer is apparently just knowledgeable, is what I usually get when I ask why he's an officer. And all he does is just farms gold or something. That's why he's an officer. Eventually the GM kind of just dips out, barely logs in, while certain officers are busy recruiting specifically for people who want to raid. The GM comes back and notices they aren't recruiting enough lobies for his taste and tramples over the work they've done and causes issues. These officers eventually leave with all the raiders, and since then the guild's been at a standstill. The GM logged in one day and made some random people officers, hoping they might put in some work, but nothing's really changed. The officers who did nothing keep asking each other what should we do because none of them are capable of standing up and making a decision, solidifying them as, in fact, useless. I also went and checked on the officers and raid members that have left the guild to do their own thing, and they're doing okay. More operating and behaving like a normal guild, which good on them. But unfortunately, they've decided to take and learn a lot from the previous GM. Their new Discord is now almost the size of the old one with all the text and voice channels, and their raid leading mirrors the GM. Very negative. Lots of putting down, shaming, and toxic behavior that you'd think is only exclusive to high-end guilds. But no, it's very much alive in the casual and lower-end guilds as well.
Well, I don't know what I expected.
Alright, side note here. This is probably my biggest concern. The officers that left are a married woman with kids and a young 20s dude. Biggest thing that irks me about this new guild is the incessant love talk. I've watched some of their raids, and without fail, at least once a raid, the married woman will stop mid-conversation, mid-raid, to say how much she loves the younger dude. It's extremely uncomfortable, especially the way she says it. Of course, this is all done in fun, but for the other people in the raid, no one else is invested in this joke, and it's usually really quiet after these remarks. It's strange vibes all around. They have policies of banning anyone who leaves the guild. They had an officer leave on his ult because he was going to put it in another guild, and that person was swiftly demoted, kicked, and banned from the guild forever, because he didn't pass the message along before doing so. That, coupled with the fact that the guild has rats in it that will take any kind of venting of frustration and run to tell a GM in a heartbeat. This is when I decided to finally check out of the whole situation. At this point, we've reached just peak degeneracy. Instead of just observing the unique situations, it's revolved to just backstabbing and simping for this team or that team. While there are events taking place that will eventually cause another explosion in this guild, I've observed and offered help plenty, and I've chosen to leave them to their own devices. And just a small update, the main raid for this guild has eventually become more chill and getting things done, which is good. The other raids they try to host, not so much. Kids will be kids, and honestly this whole ordeal of these guilds has reopened my eyes. It's kind of funny. I have played this game since I was a teenager, and obviously as you age and mature, you kind of assume others would follow suit, but I don't know. Some things just never change. WoW will always just be a cesspool of drama. I don't want anyone thinking that I just observed and watched the world burn. I offered help and suggestions, but even though a lot of these people say my feedback was appreciated, none of what I suggested was ever followed through. I tried each step of the way to try and offer advice to avoid disaster, and then disaster struck. And I did so in good faith, because while I did enjoy the drama content and experiences I went through in these guilds, I did also meet a few decent people. So much so that that officer that got kicked from the new guild, I suggested he speak to the GM of my guild and put in a good word for him to join. And he did join. He definitely enjoys the fact that he can just log in and raid without any of the drama. So what would I say for people who don't have a lot of experience with these mass invite guilds? I'd say use them, if you're leveling. They are tailored for helping you with quests or doing dungeons needed for leveling. I would never suggest joining the Discord or getting emotionally involved. Use the guild for its intended purpose, then once reaching max level, drop guild and find a guild focused on raiding. That is, assuming that's why you got to max level in the first place. If you're going to deal with drama and bickering, at least make it so you deal with it in a guild that clears the content. WoW is what you make it. You surround yourself with the people you want to. It might take time to find your people, but you can find friends for life. I definitely have. But enough about me. Appreciate it if you stuck around. Like, subscribe, and comment, and as they say, bye.